Hey, it's Craig Syracusa, and welcome to another episode of Walk in Faith, the show where we go beyond the image and we discover who our guests really are. You might know them from TV, the big screen, or even the world of sports, but do we really know who they are as a person? Do we know what motivates them? Do we know what inspires them? Well, that's what we're here to find out.
Today I'm here with Chris and Emily Norton to discuss their powerful new book, The 7 Longest Yards, in part 1 of our interview. Stay tuned and walk with us. Guys, thank you so much. Like I said off camera, honored to meet you. Read the book, loved it. I've read a lot of books, a lot of movies. Sometimes they resonate, sometimes they don't, but definitely the book spoke to me directly. I don't believe in coincidences at all, if anyone knows me. But now I watched the video of you during the wedding and graduation. I think the whole world did. Like, take me back to, that football game. Was there anything unique about that morning or anything that happened that sort of, and if you could walk me through exactly what happened that day?
Yeah, so I was just an 18-year-old kid, 6th week of the season, and I was just living the dream. I was on top of the world, making lots of friends. I was working my way up on the depth chart of the football team. I was playing more than any freshman in my class. And that morning, when the game kicked off, we fell behind pretty early, and we needed to come back. So in the third quarter, we scored a touchdown. The momentum starting to shift. So I ran out to the field for the kickoff. We're going to kick the ball off to the other team. And the play was mortar kick right, which is on the right side of the field. I don't know why we just call it kick right, because our kicker was so bad that every kick was like really short and high arching. But the ball was kicked and to my side, and I see this opening forming. And I know that ball carrier is going to run through that hole, and I'm going to stop him. I'm going to drive my shoulder so hard through his legs, he's going to drop the ball. And so I see him coming, and I make a diving tackle for his legs. And I mistimed my jump just by a split second.
Wow.
So instead of getting my head in front of the ball carrier, my head collides right with his legs. And in an instant, I lose all feeling and movement from my neck down, and I'm just face down, motionless. I hear the collision of the players above me, the whistle blows, the pile clears, but I can't get up. And I'm telling my body, I'm telling myself, Chris, get up, but nothing is working. Like someone just turned the power off to my body, and no matter how hard I try to push off that ground, nothing is working.
Can you compare it to anything like that? So for instance, for me, like, is it like if my leg falls asleep, like what is it, is there any way of explaining it to someone that, because what does it feel like?
Yeah, I mean, at first it felt like a stinger. So I've had that in a football game where like a pinched nerve, it kind of shuts down part of your body and it takes a little while to wake up. Kind of like a Novocaine shot, like it falls asleep and then it comes back alive. Well, I was thinking that it's going to come back to life. I was going to get up off the field, and I just thought maybe this is a really bad stinger, and everything, my feeling would come back, my movement would come back, but it didn't. And like you said, like if you fall asleep on your arm and you can't feel it or move it for a little bit, but then it was just stuck like that.
And then what happened? So then the coach and I guess the ref, like everyone just ran on the field? Like what took place after that?
Yeah, so the athletic trainer runs out into the field. He makes sure everyone stays back. He's asking me questions like, Chris, can you hear me? Are you in any pain? I tell him, no, I'm completely fine. I'm conscious. I didn't suffer a concussion. I just can't move or feel anything. Just give me some more time. I'll get up off this field. Well, eventually they roll me onto my back, and I'm laying there just still waiting. They ask me questions like, Chris, can you make a fist with your hand? So I tried making a fist. Nothing happens. They ask, Chris, can you feel us touching your legs? I couldn't feel a thing. They keep asking similar questions like that. I keep telling them no and no. And so inside, I'm trying to stay calm.
Yeah.
I'm just like an optimistic, glass is always half full kind of person. So I'm trying to tell myself it's going to be okay. Like, you're from a small town in the Midwest, going to a small college. Bad things don't happen to you. Bad things happen to people far away, people that you read about in the newspaper, that you watch on television, or it's people that are on your show. But I never just imagined that something severe could happen to me. And then they call in for the EMTs, the paramedics, and then they called in for the helicopter. And that's when I knew my life was being turned upside down.
How much time was it before, like how long were you on the field for?
I'd say roughly 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
I was on the field without anything changing, other than other than just me starting to slowly lose the ability to breathe.
And so now when you were on the helicopter, is that when you realized or came to that realization, like, this is serious? When you started to have an issue breathing?
I really knew I had an issue was just getting called, the helicopter called. That's when I knew this is like severe, because I knew there's a local hospital, but the local hospital wasn't equipped to handle what was going on with me. So that was my first indication that this is bad. And then when I started to lose the ability to breathe, that's when it just terrified me.
And now, were your parents there at the time?
My parents were there, yep. So they eventually came down on the field to check on me, just trying to encourage me. But I know from them watching from the stands, they're used to me just popping back up out of the pile and walking off to the sideline. But the fact that I was just there motionless, not like rolling around, grabbing a knee or a leg like you would do if you're injured part of your body, but just still. And that was a first indication for them that this is bad.
Wow. And so then you get on the helicopter and they took you to, was it Mayo Clinic?
Yeah, Mayo Clinic up in Rochester, Minnesota.
In your book, you were saying then, was it one of the surgeons when they finally said or told you, diagnosed you or told you what happened? Well, what did they say? What was sort of the outcome?
Yeah, the surgeon said, Chris, you have a 3% chance to ever regain any feeling or movement back below the neck. And I was devastated. I couldn't imagine like this is actually happening to me. And this is like my worst nightmare happening and unfolding before me. I lost it. I couldn't believe it. But there was something though in me that just said, no way, not me. Like, no way, not me. I'm not gonna let this define my life. I'm gonna do whatever I can each and every day to beat these odds. I won't be that 97% that doesn't recover from this. I'll do whatever it takes to be that 3%. And so I went to work right away. And the only thing I could do at the time was to nod my head yes and no. And I nodded my head yes and no for hours. I looked like a giant bobblehead, just like bouncing my head around. But I was just gonna do each and everything, each and every day, just to get a little bit better.
We'll be back right after this. So when that surgeon said to you, you have a 3% chance, what was the first thing you did? I know you said you had, obviously you were upset, but did you pray? Did you talk to God? Or did you start to did fear enter your body? Or you right away said, I'm going to defy this, I'm going to prove him wrong?
Well, I was gonna, I had that fire, I'm gonna prove him wrong, I'm gonna come back. But then soon as the realization, the lights go out, it's quiet.
You're alone.
You can't help but just think about the future and what's going to happen to you. But the only thing that really kept me hopeful was my faith. I had a faith in God that, he can take this mess and make it his message. But I also asked God, how can this be your plan? How can you take this kind of mess and make it into something special? I was doubting God, although my faith was still there. And I knew I had to just cling on to that because that's the only thing I had. I had nothing else I could rely on other than my faith. So I had this glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel that something good could come from this and that there is a plan for me. And I just had to hold on to that tightly because everything else around me was falling apart.
Wow. And your father, if he was here, I'd love to shake his hand. But he said a few really inspiring things. There was one that he said, if you don't like the situation or where you are, then change it or do something about it. And that resonated with you a lot. And most people would take that or make excuses and not really follow through. But he said it's simple, but at the same time, there's so much meaning behind it. And how did that resonate with you? Did you get upset with him that he said that, or did that fill you with ambition, or were you passionate about it?
Yeah, when he first told me that as a kid, I was kind of angry about it because it was pushing responsibility on yourself and for how you're going to respond to life circumstances. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to move forward? And it puts a responsibility on you, which is a lot of weight, but it's also what you need to do to move forward with whatever situation you're going through. And so being in the hospital, being in the situation I was in, I knew I had to take responsibility for my life. I had to take that ownership because it was up to me how I moved forward. I couldn't dwell on the past. I couldn't change anything that happened. I had to just let that go, which is much easier said than done. But I had to, and I had to just focus on what I could do today and that responsibility of getting my life better.
And most people that are in situations not like yours, they're not even willing to take that step or that jump or that leap of faith. And they're in, ordinary situation. And you, that's so amazing that you were able to make that stand and take those words of encouragement and actually do something about it. Now, Georgia, right? Fascinating. That was an actual person, right? You didn't just add that and fabricate in the book, but tell me, did you ever get a chance to thank her, or what did she say, just in case people haven't read the book yet, but what did she say to you that sort of encouraged you?
Yeah, so on the fourth night, I was awake, about 4 a.m. I couldn't sleep. Everything was just feeling like it was falling apart. I was thinking about my life. Will I ever be happy? Will I ever meet a girl that would want to be with me? How can I ever live a life like this from a wheelchair? And then this physician comes in to check my vitals, which someone checks your vitals every 2 hours is pretty typical. But then she checks my vitals and she does something different. She comes over to my bedside, gets down on one knee, and she says, "Chris, look me in the eyes." And she was kind of mean about it. And so I lock eyes with her, and she's this short lady, short reddish hair, glasses, and she has this voice that sounds like she came straight out of a Western movie. And she says, "My name's Georgia, I'm from Wyoming. Do you know anyone from Wyoming?" And I say, "No," and I'm thinking, where is this going? And then she says, "Well, people from Wyoming don't tell lies. And I want you to know, you will beat this. You will beat this." And I instantly I lost it. I needed to hear those words so badly. And she completely restored my faith and hope. It was like this angel just came into my life and spoke this wisdom and just gave me that courage just to keep moving forward. Because I was questioning whether all the time, all the effort I was putting into my recovery and my life was even worth it. Like, should I just give up? And it was just that voice that I needed to hear at the right time to just give me that courage to move forward. And not that I can beat this, but that I will beat this. It gave me that complete confidence.
Did you ever see her again after that?
I did. I saw her a couple of years later, and I saw her out in the crowd, and I went over to her and I told her,
That's beautiful.
The words you said to me meant so much to me. Like, that completely changed my outlook.
What did she say?
No idea. Her eyes just got teary, and she was just appreciative of what I had to say, and I think it hopefully encouraged her to keep speaking life into other people, and like how valuable her position, her status is as a physician, and especially in a hospital where you're seeing people's lives turned upside down.
And that was definitely, God. God planted that seed within her for her to say something, because why would she? Most people wouldn't say anything.
Yes.
And that's exactly what you needed at that moment. So it's like you always got to look back and you see how God was there the whole time. But in the moment, it's hard to see him, right? It's hard to see it at all, or your faith is being tested. But you can see, throughout the story.
Yeah. It's all about where you're putting your attention and your focus.
Yep.
Like, are you focusing on the blessings and the things that are coming to you? Or are you focusing on what you don't have, what you wish you could have been? Yeah, my attention was on those blessings and what I can do and what I do have. And I think that really helped motivate me, encourage me to keep going.
I always say too, like we all do, right? God, show me a sign, give me a sign. And I always use the burning bush, right? Where's the burning bush? But God is everywhere, right? So if you look for the little things, you just look for God and love, you'll see him. But if you're looking for him to come down, and with a lightning bolt or a burning bush, you're not going to see it. He's everywhere. At what point did your father start setting up this website? Was it during that time?
So it was probably the day after my surgery. People were pouring in messages to my family asking for updates, like what's going on. A lot of people started to hear about the news of me breaking my neck, and just to kind of respond to try to get everyone updated with what's going on, they started this website with the help of my sister, this Caring Bridge. And so they started putting out like my updates and what's going on this website, and people from all over the country, all over the world started writing to me and messaging us. And that gave me so much courage. I realized that I could be an inspiration. I could actually use this pain that I was going through to help somebody else. I was caught off guard because I was just trying to recover, get my life back. I was just doing what I thought anyone else would do. And I think if you're in that situation, you would do the same thing that I did, of just you try to fight. And people were inspired by that, and that gave me even more courage to keep going.
Was there one message that sort of stands out, or that you reached out to, or?
Oh man,
There's just so many.
There are just so many, but like someone in particular who wrote the foreword for our book is Tim Tebow.
Oh,
and
we all love Tim Tebow.
Yeah, Tim is an amazing person, and he
Really
called
is.
me unrestricted number, which is a
Wow.
big deal because I've had different football coaches and athletes
He's great.
call me, but they were all like restricted numbers.
Yeah.
But Tim Tebow or Meyer, they were the two guys that this is my cell phone number. You call me, you text me whenever you want, and we'll do whatever we can to help you. And they were true to their word.
Okay, so now during that time too, your father also, he said that too, right? To use your injury, as a way of sort of, giving back or being able to help people.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess he was sort of in line with, you guys have sort of the same thought process when it comes to that. So now, Emily, so tell me now. So during this time, like the timeline, you guys met was through online dating or was through one of these websites? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so we met on an online dating site and just an instant connection. So we actually had the website for his foundation. By that time, he had started a foundation to help other people with neurological disabilities and spinal cord injuries, all that. And so I had already looked that up. I was like, that's cool that he's using this injury that could have brought him down and ruined his life to give back and help someone else and really make an impact. Watch news stories about him. He didn't know that I was
So you were,
actually
like,
stalking him. Yeah, right. I didn't tell him until
Trolling,
he
whatever
told
they
me
call
that about his injury.
You're like, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, right, exactly. Oh, wow.
She played it off really cool.
That's great.
But I just realized, like, this guy has such an amazing attitude. And I wanted to know more. I'm like, is this real? Is this actually his attitude all the time? As I got to know him, I realized that obviously he has his moments like anybody, he's human, but his majority of the time, he is always focusing on the good, on the things he has, the things that he's thankful for. And that really, no matter the circumstance you're in, that you can still find the good, you can still find the happiness and not focus on your struggle. So I was really drawn to him and his just work ethic and attitude.
So you guys arranged, I guess, a meeting with college campus or something?
Yeah.
How did that happen? Was it like, tell me? Because I
Yeah.
know in the book you talk about how cheesy it was and all that.
Well, he wanted me to go to his friend's house. We had never met in person. I'm like, I am not going to your friend's house. Like, that is not going to happen. That is not safe at all.
Smart move by you.
He didn't get it. He's like,
Yeah.
I'm in a wheelchair. But I'm like, your friends aren't. Like, plus, I don't
wouldn't
know
know
you.
anything.
Yeah. So we met up in a public place, but I really scared Chris because before that I had messaged him and I'm like, hey, well, why don't I just pick you up in my car? And I was thinking at the time, like, I was so naive to wheelchairs, people who are in wheelchairs, spinal cord injuries. I was like, we can just, he can get in the car and we'll put the chair in the back of my tiny little car. So that freaked him out. He's like, oh my God, this girl has no idea what's going on or what this means. But it went really, really well. The night went well. We met and it was an instant connection. Everything was really easy. We just had great conversations and he was a great listener. The rest is history.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to get into that history. Be right back with Emily and Chris. So welcome back, guys. So like you said, the rest is history. So at what point did you know or did you realize that, Chris was the one, that he was the right man for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely that instant connection where it just felt like God had put us together for a reason. But it was probably a few months later where I just had this feeling. I was sitting on his lap. I'm like, I just know that if I have you, everything's going to be okay in life. Like, I just had so much peace knowing that, like, that we were just meant to be together. And I just felt like we would get through whatever it was, the hard things.
When you graduated college, right, and you decided you made that, that I'm going to walk across the stage, did you surprise her? Was that before or after when you had that big surprise with your family and everything where you popped the question?
Yeah, I wanted to surprise her with a proposal. And I knew I had to do it big. She's always watching these proposal videos online with like photographers, videographers. Family's important to her. And so I feel like she was hinting at me, like, Chris, you gotta do it big. And so I'm like, all right, I gotta plan this, I gotta think about this. And so it just felt perfect that on my graduation weekend, the day before, would gather around family and friends, and I could surprise her in my college town before we did the graduation walk. And how special would it be to have my fiance help me across the stage versus just my girlfriend? And so I surprised her, and she started crying, which was perfect. And
Glad you cried.
Yeah. We had a nice room set up and family and friends and the whole shebang. And it would have been really awkward though if she would have said no.
Mine was very basic. I did it in my house. My family came over, we had pizza.
Oh,
Very basic. Yours was like elaborate. I'm like, oh man,
Yeah.
my wife don't read this chapter.
Yeah, well, I'm not romantic at all. Like, she can attest to this. So I'm like, I have to make up for some lost ground. So I'm gonna make.
Yeah,
this
that
one
was really
special.
romantic.
Yeah.
That was great. So now your graduation was, you said, 3 days later, and when did you make this decision to walk across the stage? Was that when they said the 3% chance? When did you decide that?
Well, I would say probably when I got on campus, back on campus the following year, that how great would it be to just kind of close my college chapter by walking. Because I started the year, pretty much my collegiate career, paralyzed. I was like, right in the beginning, I got hurt. And so just trying to end it with something special, something to work towards as well. And I feel like when you can aim for a really big goal, even if you miss small because you're already shooting high. And so I knew if I would just push myself to work extra hard for this goal, I also knew I needed time because it's not fast. Like a spinal cord injury recovery, it's extremely slow and it's so unpredictable. There's a lot really out of your control, but I knew I just had to control my effort, my attitude, and just get after it each and every day, knowing your future will take care of itself when you take care of today.
What was it like? So you walked across stage. I mean, the college must have went crazy, right? They must have. What happened?
Well, going into it, I was nervous. I was deathly nervous. I set this goal. I've been working so hard for it. So it's like, what if I trip and fall? Like, what if something happens? My belt breaks loose and then my pants fall. The worst case scenario is running through my head. And I also was worried about people like booing me off stage. Like, graduations are slow. People are checking their clock. It's hot in the gym. And so I'm wondering, people are going to be mad that I'm taking so long to go across the stage. So all these negative thoughts were going through my head. Then as soon as Emily stood me up, the crowd erupts and you can just feel this energy in the room. And it just really encouraged me, and I think Emily too, that, okay, we got this, we can do it. And just focusing on one step after another. And then we get to the end and you turn out and everyone's standing, they're clapping, people are crying. My friends were crying, I've never seen them cry before, like just grown men just like losing it. And that's when I really knew that this is a special moment.
Well, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Always remember, we have the ability to inspire and evangelize through our words and actions. Till next time, thanks for walking with us.